All right, everybody ready? Let me welcome all of you to the LD4 Wikidata Affinity Group meeting. There will be a couple speakers today, and I will turn this over to the LD4 Wikidata Affinity Group chairs. So feel free to take it away.
Thanks so much, Will, and thanks everyone for joining today. I'll give just a quick overview of what our plan is, and then we'll get started and I'll start screen sharing. But we're going to do a brief overview of what the LD4 Wikidata Affinity Group is. And then we're going to create a breakout room. And if you're interested in Wikibase and creating some items in WB Stack for the conference sessions, you can join that breakout room. And then meanwhile, in our main room here, we'll continue talking about gadgets and user scripts in Wikidata and how you can install them, and then give a few demos of our favorite ones, and then move over to some editing prompts so you can get some hands-on time editing in Wikidata and ask questions and have just a fun collaborative working environment. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then share our event page for today. So we have a project page set up, and I will put the link in the chat for everyone. And you'll be able to follow along here with all of the links we navigate to. And I'm going to get us started talking about the LD4 Wikidata Affinity Group. We started in April of 2019. I am now a resource sharing librarian, but formerly I was Wikimedian in residence with the Linked Data for Production project. And so we started meeting bi-weekly and having these affinity group calls that were discussion opportunities to talk about Wikidata and learn about various projects, get demos of tools, and really learn about the Wikidata community. And the meetings have been going on ever since. A little over about a year ago, I was lucky enough to be joined by my co-facilitators, who you'll be hearing from very shortly, Susan Radofsky, Sarah Kasten, Eric Willey, and Alex Jung. And then later this year, we also added our Wikibase working hours. So we'll also be joined by Esther Jackson and Ryan Mendenhall. And so we host these affinity group calls every 2 weeks. They're on Tuesdays at the same time every couple of weeks. And usually we have a guest come and talk about a project they're working on or a tool. You can see all of our past agendas. And all of our meetings are recorded, and the recordings are shared. So if you see any topics in this list that interest you, you can always go back. We've had really great presentations on a lot of Wikidata tools like the author disambiguator tool and Scholia. We've heard from different projects that are happening within the Wikidata community, like João Alexandre Pachansky on Wikidata and education products in Brazil. We had a really great session. Let's see if I can find it in the list for you, back in July of 2019 on Wikidata and Wikimedia communication channels. And so if you're interested in where to find answers to questions in Wikidata, want to learn more about the Telegram group, that's a really great call to check out. So now I'm going to turn things over to Susan, who coordinates our Wikidata working hours, and she's going to share some info about those.
First, I'll remember to unmute. Thank you, Hillary. So the calls, as Hillary described, are an excellent opportunity to learn about new developments in the Wikidata world and to join in community discussion. And then every 2 weeks, alternating between Mondays and Fridays to accommodate the widest group of participants, we also offer our affinity group working hours. and what you're going to be in the main room today is essentially approximates that experience. Everyone is welcome at these 1-hour sessions, and there are no skill requirements. This is a chance to get your feet wet and your hands dirty, no matter where you are in the learning process. You also have a dashboard for each hour to record your editing activity, so you're contributing to Wikidata while learning and sharing. We invite you to join us for a collaborative hour of editing and Wikidata practice. We will provide a project for the hour, and you're always welcome to bring your own projects to work on. This is a space for community and skill building. We welcome your questions and your expertise about all things Wikidata. And we do, if you look at that event page that, that Hillary linked to, there is even a dashboard for today for the activity that we will be doing, so you can sign up there. Thanks. I will pass this along to, I think, Ryan and Esther.
Hi. Last year, we approached the conveners of the Wikidata Working Affinity Group, and with the idea to start Wikibase and WBStack working hours. And so we began earlier this year and have had a few calls, and you can find the information on our page here, as well as some information about what our group is kind of going for. We're sort of looking, it's a little more difficult since Wikibase and WBStack are by nature kind of institutional or localized, but we're seeking ways that we can kind of build community around local Wikibase and WBStack adoption, and help each other like learn and troubleshoot and maybe funnel feedback to the broader Wikimedia movements about things that we need from Wikibase and WBStack. And as Hillary noted, we'll be hosting a mini breakout group to use the WBStack platform to do some editing or item creation for conference sessions and things related to the conference. So please join us. And I will hand it over now to, I forget if it's Sarah or Alex who goes next. Sorry.
Is it me again?
It is you again, Susan.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so I was just going to talk about our main communication channels. We have two main channels for communicating with the Wikidata Affinity Group community. The LD4 Google group is where you get reminders about upcoming calls and working hours, and also the post-call notes and recording links. And the Wikidata channel in the LD4 Slack space is a good place to share information about upcoming events and new developments, and also to ask questions. People are pretty responsive there. And I think this is Eric.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming. If, like me, you're going to get to the end of this week and think, I'll definitely remember where I saw that, and then next week you're trying to remember where it is, pretty much all of our information can be found on our Wiki page, our Wiki project page. I just dropped a link into chat, and you can see our some of our rationale there, our approach as well. The communication channels that Susan just mentioned are there as links if you need those, and as well as some goals and outcomes. So you can look at those and kind of see what we're all about, and that sort of those basic information that are more targeted towards individual monthly calls and working hours, or bi-weekly calls, excuse me, and working hours. We also always like to give a plug for the Practical Wikidata for Librarians pages. Let me drop that in chat as well. This came out of the Blacklight LD working meeting at Stanford in 2019, and it's a great resource for if you have a project, you want to look at a tool to maybe address a problem or an issue you're having. They're broken down into gadgets, user scripts, etc. I won't read the whole thing at you, but it's a great resource to either not reinvent the wheel or even just browse occasionally and get some ideas for your own work. And we also encourage people to add their own useful tools and tips here as well. Thank you very much, and I will hand it back to Hillary.
Thanks so much, everyone. So now we're going to split off into a breakout room if you're interested in creating items for the conference in WBStack and talking about Wikibase. And in the main room, we're going to continue looking at gadgets and user scripts. So I'm going to stop sharing and create the breakout room for us. You'll see an option to join the breakout room if you would like to. All right. So let's see. Just going to rename the room Wikibase and go ahead and open it. So you can join the Wikibase breakout room if you'd like, or you can stay here in this main room and we'll continue talking about gadgets and user scripts in Wikidata. And let me know if anyone is having any difficulties joining.
Okay, I think while people are jumping over, I'll start sharing my screen as we get into looking at some Wikidata gadgets. Give it another moment. People are making tough choices right now where to go. Oh, is there a problem with the breakout room?
There seems to be.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's not letting people join.
Yeah, I'm not able to
sharing.
join.
All right, let me try troubleshooting this. Apologies, everyone. Let's see.
Now, because I see numbers dropping.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it looks like Esther was able to join.
Yeah, it looks like people can join. I lost my internet for a second, but it looks like we're back up. I
Okay.
apologize for that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Looks like people are moving over, so I think we are set then. But if anyone, as Alex says in the chat, if anyone needs us to manually move you over, please let us know and we can do that.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, everybody should be seeing our Wikidata homepage here. I'm going to walk through the very simple steps to enable a Wikidata gadget, and then I'll demonstrate one of my favorite gadgets, which is the merge gadget. So you can see I'm logged in here, and then I can go and open my preferences. Lots of different settings to choose from, but I'm going to dive right into the gadgets menu. And really what a gadget is any kind of like tool that facilitates editing within Wikidata, the Wikidata interface. So there's lots of kind of like nice shortcuts and efficiencies you can gain from enabling some of these gadgets. There's a fairly long list here, and very kindly people have included descriptions for them. It's incredibly easy to find one that you want to check out, and it's as simple as checking your blue checkbox and making sure to save at the bottom. I think some of these gadgets are automatically enabled as you create a Wikidata account, but some of them require you to go in and select them themselves. I'm just going to save that. Hopefully everybody already has a Wikidata account and can can sign in, but if that's not the case, maybe ping us in chat if you're having any problems with that. To speak, I have the merge gadget enabled. You can see that right here. And I found an example where I have a potential duplicate between two Wikidata items, and I want to merge those records into one in order to kind of maintain quality in the database. So I've looked through these entries and I can pretty reasonably say that this item duplicates the other item for this particular Armenian painter who lived at these dates. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy the QID of one of them and then go back over to my other. Under this More tab, I can go Merge With. I'm going to paste the QID into my prompt box here. And then I just add like a very simple explanation. Usually it's just duplicate item or similar. I prefer to have this checkbox that says always merge into the older entity. That's the default. And so that's just kind of what I've always gone with. There is an option to postpone the merge. I don't quite know exactly under what circumstances you would want to do that, but it's there, I guess. And then I'm just going to click merge here. It does its magic. And let's see, if I refresh this one, I think it'll say yes. So it says redirected from the old, and I have merged and made Wikidata a better place. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, and I think we have another gadget.
That would be me. I'm going to be talking about current date and duplicate references, which I always think should also be called duplicate references. I don't know which one is correct. So I'm going to share my screen. And that's not what I'm showing. Okay. Share my screen. Hopefully you are now seeing the item for Nancy Kelly, an American film director. So if we go down to the educated at statement, which is right here, you can see that we have two institutions that she attended, and one has a reference and one doesn't. So I'm going to start by showing that this particular reference, yeah, sorry, I wasn't careful. I'm going to have to remove this date so I can show you how I put it in. Come on. Okay, and then I'll hit publish. And now you will see, sorry, it's going very slowly. Now I hope you will see that this has stated in and the URL, but not the date. So I'm going to add a reference. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Okay, and then I'm going to just actually, yeah, sorry, I practiced, but this is just, of course, going wrong. Okay, so I'm going to add a qualifier here, and I'm going to use retrieved so that we can add the date. And then you will see that because I have current date enabled, it fills in today's date, and I don't even have to remember what day it is. So then I will hit publish, and we now have the date there. It says copy here, so because my duplicate references is already enabled, but because sometimes it's a little wonky, I'm just going to reload the page, and that way, okay, when it comes back to itself, there we go. Sorry, it's so slow. Okay. All right, now you can see that we have one reference. Oh, for goodness sake. Okay. It's going to appear. I don't know if this is loading as slowly as I think it is, but okay, now I hope I'm just trying to open the reference, but it keeps clicking on it. Oh, this is a tragedy. Okay, let me go back to Nancy Lee.
No rush, Susan. Technical
Thank you.
difficulties are no problem.
Oh, thank you so much, Hillary. Okay, here we are. Anna Maria College. Let us see. If I'm a little more patient and let it completely load, maybe this will work better. Okay. Let's try to open it. There, phew. Okay, so now you can see, because I have duplicate references enabled as a gadget, we can click on copy. It will say copied, and now this insert reference will appear, and hopefully we will soon have a reference for the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, which is identical to the one above. And I'm going to now stop sharing and let the next person.
Okay, I think that's me. I'm going to talk about Recoin a little bit. That is the relative completeness indicator. Let me get my screen share here. And is everyone seeing the Recoin page? Yep, thank you. So Recoin is, as I said, the relative completeness indicator. It can be located under preferences and gadgets and enabled, as Sarah discussed a little earlier. And it finds similar items to the one you're working on and gives you a list of properties that they tend to have. So I grabbed a few examples from the Cinema of Chile Wikipedia page. And if no one has made these edits in the last 45 minutes or hour or so, we've got My Tender Matador. And if we go over here, there's two indicators. There's this one on the right, kind of near the top right corner, that'll tell us it provides basic information, and there are 5 levels to give you an idea of how much information is in here. And then what I find really useful is if we go over here and click on the arrow, it'll give us a list, and about 50% of, let's see, this is an instance of a film, and it's saying about 50% of them tend to have the property color. About 38.7 have screenwriter. And let's see, we can tell from the page it's directed by Rodrigo Sepulveda with a screenplay written by the same person. So we can go back here and you can either click on the plus and there's a Chilean film director. So that looks like the person we want to add, and we can publish that. And now it includes that information. One thing you might want to note, it didn't give me a way doing it through here to include a reference. So if I do want to include a reference, I have to go back down to here and add that. And for certain properties, like if I had added a single cast member, I believe it would have taken it out of here, even though I only added one, and you can obviously add several more cast members. Otherwise, it's a fantastic little tool. I find it especially useful for when I'm working on a lot of the same things and I might have forgotten one property. I can check that and remember, oh no, I do need to add that in. And there is the page if you have further questions about exactly how it works. I just use it and I'm grateful for the people who made it and the miracle of JavaScript. So I will now hand it over to Alex and stop sharing.
Thanks, Eric. I will go ahead and share my screen. I think it should work. How's that looking? Awesome. Okay. So mine's going to be a real, for the gadgets at least, it's going to be a real quick shout out more so than anything before I move on to user scripts. Related items, it's super easy. There's a demonstration GIF, I feel like this is always controversial, but there's one here, which kind of like already shows how it works. So effectively would just enable the gadget, and if you go all the way down to the bottom, there's this thing called derived statements, and then it'll just show you all of the sort of flipped versions of all of the properties that have been entered into the database. So I'm just going to quickly demo that. For example, going to, if we say go to Jane Austen, and then really what I just do is I get tired of scrolling, especially when the item pages are so huge like this one. I just kind of click, no, not click, I just hit the end button for my keyboard to scroll up just a little bit, and then usually you'll run into this little section that says show derived statements. I click that, and each of these, if you look at the property, it doesn't give you the number itself because generally it's just like the flip of another property that exists. But what it does give you is like the field of work. So what that means is in, for example, Jane Austen, Society of North America, Deirdre LeFay, that there are field of work specialization entries that point to Jane Austen on these pages. Oh, actually, maybe it's not. Oh, sorry, my bad. So I haven't clicked into the right items here. It's the toolbar. Go to Jane Austen is under field of work. And then this effectively flips into the derived statements. So you can kind of scroll through. I won't be able to demonstrate all of the varieties of derived statements that come up here. If you are curious about the logic for how this works, we can talk a little bit more during the time that we have for working hour. But really, it's great for when you're just trying to browse through Wikidata. I know that it's not necessarily like the thing that we would think to do, but it can be helpful when you're trying to get a sense for the different kinds of linkages that can be made, especially if it's not formalized that the inverse of a property is like used normally. So that, somebody might have a property for depict, but then you wouldn't necessarily formalize one for depicted by. But this way, with a gadget enabled, you can have it display and make that link a lot more easier than you would be able to find otherwise. Any questions so far? Otherwise, I will head over to user scripts. Sweet. Okay. Just going to come back right here. So user scripts. Something that I just want to kind of clear as we go into this is if you have made a subpage in Wikidata before, then you will know that it's super easy. If you have not, well, then great. I can explain it in like 2 seconds. And that's literally just that you go to your user page, and then you would literally just type in anything after the slash. For example, I could type star, and then it would give you another option to create a subpage after that. So really, this is like all we're working with here when we are talking about user scripts. So so media wiki, and then in the case of Wikibase, which is adapted from the software media wiki, allows you to create subpages that can run JavaScript. So this is what these are. So if you click through, for example, this link, and the link for this page is, I'm just going to drop it once more in the chat right now. So if you come to user scripts and just go through special mypage comment.js, then it'll give you your equivalent under CommonJS. Now, I'm going to log out of mine and just log into a dummy account because I already made one. So it doesn't really demo going kind of like from scratch here. So if I quickly go in and do this, and then try to go to, say, my comment.js. This page currently doesn't exist because I've never made one, but I can create one very easily. So you would just go effectively here, create a page. The little tag that you saw initially on somebody that on the page of somebody that already has a comment.js page, it'll just kind of show up by default. So all you would really need to do here is, before anything, you can just, you could technically type anything. You could, in my case, I'm just going to type create page. If you see the 2 forward slashes here in JavaScript, all that means is that you're commenting it out. So it's not going to take effect as like computer code, because the difference between this kind of subpage and like a regular subpage, like where it's text and not JavaScript, is that it runs the code, right? So you just want to comment things out by using 2 slashes over here. And I can just technically publish the page that way. And as soon as you do that, you'll see that you're able to just make a new page. So that's, so far, everybody's following. Okay, sweet. So based on this now, the only other thing that we really have to know to get user scripts running is copy and pasting. Because now that we know how the subpages work, all the user scripts do is, it's kind of like gadgets, in the sense that gadgets usually actually start out as user scripts, and enough people take it up and like it becomes upgraded into a gadget. And with a user script, that's not necessarily the case yet. So generally, like, people who can write JavaScript will have developed these functions, and you're just kind of pulling them into your common.js file so that the software can run it for you without you having to write the entire thing from scratch. So for example, here you'll see that this is a script for mix and match. For mix and match, you'll hear Hillary describe it in a little bit more detail, but for now, I'm just going to demonstrate how this works with user script. A user called Magnus Manske, who's behind a lot of the tools and the software for the Wikimedia world, he made this user script that reads mix and match gadget, and it's supposed to. So if I technically just kind of go, let's see, back to my comment.js, just going to close that one immediately. I've created the page. You can delete this or not. I'm just going to copy this entire thing and then just paste all of that in. That's really all you need to do. So anything that's like in the documentation, or you could just go to somebody's user page, and sometimes you'll find that they have like a cool JavaScript function. You would be able to pull that in literally just by using this template. So as you can see, like the template itself is repeated. I'm just going to fix this part of documentation because I'm noticing it doesn't read what I want it to read. But effectively, this is all it should take. So you would just publish it, and then it just makes it happen for you. I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds because I've noticed that there can be a little bit of a lag between when you put it in versus when you don't. Sorry, when you put it in versus like when it starts working. But if not, if you put it in and you notice that you're running into issues with it, like actually, materializing. So in this case, I put up the gadget. Does it come up when I search for an item? So that if I go back to Jane Austen, does it immediately give me the mix and match gadget? Right now, that's perfect. It does. That's fantastic. Yesterday, I ran into some difficulties with this, so I'll demo like a quick fix if you do. But yeah, as you can see, this wasn't visible before, but mix and match entries for this item, all of these represent catalogs that you can kind of like flip through to almost play a game of like matching things to Wikidata items. It makes the process really fun and like easy and quick. So without the user script running, this wouldn't have shown up. Because I put it in, it does. And if you get tired of it, but you don't want to disable the function entirely, you can always just come to this X and just close that entirely. If you reload the page though, then it'll come back. So you don't have to worry about having changed anything permanently. If you do want to get rid of a user script, it's as simple as going back to that page that you saw. So it's just the link right here. If you ever lose the link, by the way, it's really just your user page, and then you just append this to the end of it. And then if you take out the line, it'll go away. So that's most of what I have to share. One last thing that I'll just mention is import script. So this little function that you see here is actually a deprecated function. If you're not familiar with computer speak, deprecated in this sense is they're just like, they've been trying to phase this out. It is still running because so many people use it. But really what Wikimedia has been trying to push for is for more people to use, I'm just going to come here, this function. So it effectively does the same thing, but sometimes you'll find this a useful fix if you try to bring in things and it's not quite working. So for example, yesterday on my actual account, when I tried to get a script running and it wasn't working, I just went around the problem by going here. And instead of this, I put in this, except I'm substituting this part right there. So title equals script path. So this part I would be substituting. So all of this is, we can make it clear in the documentation too. And yeah, this is really just a fix for import script doesn't work. If it does, then everything's already there for you to very simply copy and paste. Cool. I'll just hand over now to Hillary for the demo and some of the explainers on what you can edit.
Thanks, Alex. I'll go ahead and share my screen again. So this is, once again, today's event page. I'll just drop the link in the chat in case anyone is joining more recently. So my favorite user script is this identifier input user script. So you can follow the same instructions that Alex gave for adding it to your common.js page. But what it does is it lets you just copy in the whole URL for a identifier. So you don't have to figure out how Wikidata wants you to input it. And I'm going to use an example of a Chilean filmmaker since that's the Wikidata project for the conference. And so I had created this item for the filmmaker yesterday, and I want to add an identifier because those are useful for establishing notability in Wikidata and mean that your item gets linked to even more data sources. So I found him in IMDb, and there's a property page for the IMDb ID. So in the past, before I knew about this identifier user script, I would have come to this property page and then gone all the way down and looked at the example and figured out, okay, this is what I'm supposed to paste in. But because I have that identifier input user script enabled, I can just go and add my statement, and I'm going to put in IMDb ID. And then I've got his page on IMDb. I'm going to copy that whole URL and then go back to my item and paste it in. And this will happen really fast, but you'll see the whole URL be pasted in, and then it'll automatically cut it down to the pattern that Wikidata needs to make the link work. And then all I have to do is click publish, and it should work for any identifier that's in Wikidata. I haven't run across any issues. So that's one of my favorite ones that I discovered at some point. And with user scripts, it's kind of tricky sometimes to learn about them. It's by a lot of word of mouth. So we have on the Wikidata, Practical Wikidata for Librarians page, these gadgets and user scripts that we've learned about and find really helpful. And so if there are any others you're interested in, we're going to start editing for the rest of the session. But if you are interested in any of these that we didn't talk about, feel free to ask about them or write a note in the chat. And then we also have a bunch of other user scripts to look at here. And we have a few prompts to get you started trying out some of these gadgets. So one of them is to contribute to the conference Wikidata project. We have, let's see, I'll open up that page, and you can go to the Cine Chile Mix and Match catalog, and you can work on reconciling Chilean filmmakers, or you could go to the unmatched ones and perhaps create an item, which is what I had done for my example earlier, and then try and use some of the gadgets and user scripts we've done. Oh, and Alex is saying I should refresh. So there we go. Yes, thank you, Alex. So here we're in this section to contribute to the conference Wikidata project. And we also had a couple of other ideas that you can work on. You could add your favorite podcast to Wikidata, or see if an item already exists, and then for it and enhance it. So there's a page with some podcast properties you can look at. We also did a past working hour on adding and enhancing GLAM institutions. So if you're interested in working with Wikidata items for buildings, that's a great place to check out. And then finally, we had a really wonderful working hour led by Gina Solaris, and we did some work creating items related to Black Lives Matter. So there's a spreadsheet you can work from to work on enhancing Wikidata items that are part of the Black Lives Matter Wikipedia project. And then finally, wanted to say that if you are aware of any gadgets or user scripts that we don't already have documentation for, please feel free to add them to our documentation or share them with us, and we can add them. We always love to learn about new ones that we haven't used before. And then lastly, if you're interested in having working hours on a certain topic, please share those ideas either on the page or in the chat. We always love to cover topics that you're interested in. So, so we hope if you have ideas, you'll give them to us. And then finally, there's a few resources at the bottom of the page that just give you a past presentation on some gadgets and user scripts, and also this gadget usage statistics, which shows based on how many users have gadgets enabled, the most popular ones. So that's kind of fun to check out and see what's most used. So I'm going to let us all get started editing. If you would like to keep track of your edits, you can log into the event dashboard to do so, but you don't have to do that. And if you have any questions or would like to see a demo of another gadget or user script we didn't cover, please let us know. You're welcome to speak up or let us know through chat. And if I've forgotten anything, anyone feel free to jump in and add it. I don't think we've got sound at the moment, just because we're editing in the meantime. And then if anyone has questions, they're welcome to jump in with those either via audio or via chat. And if anyone comes across a cool Wikidata item they want to share or anything along those lines, feel free.
I always tell the story about the first working hour I attended, and I didn't know what it really was. And I came in like 10 minutes late, and everybody was just completely quiet, and I didn't know what was happening. And I felt it was the same thing. I was like, is the sound off? But
looks like our hour has flown by and we've got about 5 minutes left. So just wanted to check in and see if anyone had any questions or had come across anything fun that they wanted to share with the rest of the group, or any last minute demo requests. Let us know. Welcome back. How did the Wikibase editing go?
I think it went pretty well. We had about 5 folks. I should have actually checked to see how many items we created, but I think everyone created at least a couple of items for sessions and presenters. And you know, maybe I'll report back to the affinity group later for the next call.
That sounds great. We did our Gadget and user script demos, and now we've been doing a little editing in Wikidata to try them out. Let's see. And I've got, looks like there's a question, so I'll just take a look at that.
Ryan, is it okay with you if I share the Google Doc from the breakout room in case anyone is interested who wasn't in that session?
Absolutely, yeah. It's got it's got all the links and everything you need to get going if you want to make some WBStack items, non-Wikidata items, private Wikidata items for conference sessions.
Thank you everyone so much for joining us, and thanks for sharing the dashboard link in the chat so we can look at all of our activity that happened during this hour. It's amazing how much you can do in such a short period of time, and it always takes a little bit longer to populate. So if you're curious to see the final statistics, they may be available later. And just wanted to mention our next affinity group call is on Tuesday, the 27th, and we have Andra Wagmeister, who's going to be talking about shape expressions and using them in Wikidata to describe the genomics of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So a little bit outside of our library realm, but I think the topic will be really interesting and give us a great introduction to shape expressions. So if you have no idea what that is and are interested in learning more, join us next Tuesday. And thank you all for editing today. Thanks to all of my fellow presenters for taking a stab at a live demo, which is always a little tricky. And thanks so much to Esther and Ryan for leading the Wikibase breakout room. You can find us on Slack if you have any questions and or any trouble implementing any of the gadgets and user scripts we covered today. And we hope to see you at future Wikidata Affinity Group events.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.